All right, welcome back to another part in our seminar for parents. This is the seminar on digital health and cybersecurity essentials. My name is Matt Johnston. On behalf of Practive Security, I thank you once again for being here and joining us for this seminar overall. Hopefully, what we've shared with you so far has been helpful and enlightening to you. Hopefully, you've learned some things about the problems that our kids face, first of all, and then how you as a parent can jump in a rescue mission and interrupt the world's influence against our kids, break in there and build some new habits in your life, build some new rhythms in your life to restore things to their proper value system, the proper hierarchy of values, so that we can get things back on the right track and protect our kids' future. We've got a lot to cover in this. This is part 4 of our segment. I appreciate you very much bearing with us as we go through all these topics. As always, there's a lot to say, there's a lot more to be said, but hopefully this gets you a good summary of all the things that I think are most essential to you as parents to get you focused in the right areas and get our kids back on track. So in this segment, we're going to be talking a lot about artificial intelligence, a bit more about social media. We'll wrap things up about some privacy concerns about sharing online, and that will be it for this segment together. There's a lot more to cover after this. We'll cover more topics, but we'll get to that here in a minute. First, let's dive into artificial intelligence. As always, I've got a lot to say, so without further ado, let's go. Okay, artificial intelligence. This is a really big topic. Again, going back to some of our metrics, something like 90% of teens with smartphones use artificial intelligence. The this is It's difficult to avoid because it's being pushed into everything these days. All of our operating systems, whether you're using Windows or Mac or Android or whatever, artificial intelligence is being pushed as core to the operating systems themselves, and of course, it is built into all of the social media apps. It is core to the technology as we're moving forward. We are in the era of what's being called the AI revolution. Again, I have dedicated content and articles and episodes related to that particular subject. But it is rapidly being adopted by our younger adults and teens, and something like 30% or so of our kids are using AI companions to satisfy personal relational needs in their life, which, in my opinion, is just going to push them further and further down a dark hole. So we need to talk about this. It's a really big topic. So let's reframe what artificial intelligence is. It is similar in structure and nature to what happened with the iPhone or with the smartphone. It is a single platform that is trying to consolidate a lot of things in life and make them accessible through that prompt, through that personified digital chatbot. The chatbots are being given names by the providers. There's identity associated with those chatbots, and then it's through those guardians, if you will, those interfaces, that all of life is now being consolidated. So you'll see that prompt from the AI engine, "Ask me anything," and they're basically saying that I can do anything for you, and they are. There's a lot of things that those AI chatbots are being marketed to us to be able to do. They can be our assistant, they can create task lists, they can automate actions in our life, they can fill out our calendar, they can do a lot of things. And there's a lot of AI based products that are designed around this concept of being a personal assistant for you. This is actually the foundational purpose of Siri, which was arguably the first commercialized version of the AI chatbots. Siri on the smartphone, excuse me, on the iPhone. But that's what this is being marketed first as, is that AI can be a personal assistant to you to organize and orchestrate your life. It's also being heavily marketed as a companion. This is especially true with XAI and ChatGPT, but Elon Musk is very aggressive about personifying the chatbots. He has dedicated embodied forms, images, and even names for the main AI companions for XAI, and they're all sexualized. They're all designed to be alluring and interesting and attention grabbing, and he wants you to treat them as if they are peer beings to you, and as, again, spokespersons or guardians to all things, to the next point here, knowledge and truth. If you're on social media, I'm sure you regularly see people asking the AI bots, is this post true? Is this information true? People are regularly going out to the AI chatbots as a source of their knowledge, not just knowledge, also as a source of governing what is true or untrue, and then what is deeper truths about things. And so there's this temptation, but it's also being marketed to us, not just something that we're coming up with, to use these embodied AI chatbots, these embodied machines, as our source of knowledge and truth. Again, picking on Elon Musk again, he actually marketed one of his AI companions. I think she's called Annie. I think this is the name that he's chosen. And then Annie has a particular image. I think I've got it here in a few slides. But one of the original ways that he was marketing using AI was to be this sort of sexy female teacher who could teach you metaphysics, or it wasn't metaphysics. It may have been just regular physics. But the point was like, it can be this for you. AI can be this for you. It can be your assistant. It can be your companion. It can be your source of knowledge and truth. It can be your trusted advisor in life to tell you what decisions to make or not make. It can be an artist for you. You can create and recreate all sorts of videos and images. You can bring people back from the dead by reanimating an image of them and making it move and making them speak. You can also outsource a lot of your work and your tasks in the workplace, all through artificial intelligence. And so, just as we saw and we see all these different online portals and use cases being consolidated into the smartphone, and that being a central portal into an alternate reality, that's essentially what's happening also with artificial intelligence. It's this centralized place where everything is being, I'll say, migrated to all these other parts of life that we normally engage in a physical space or in a physical way or through our own due diligence and effort, is being divested into the AI technology stack. And that's going to be very dangerous for us. But the net result, of course, is further isolation. If we are all going to the AI for our source of truth and activity and orchestration and companionship in all of life, it means we're no longer going to each other for that. We're no longer going to humans to be assistants or companions. We're no longer going to teachers to teach us knowledge and truth, and pastors to be sources of wisdom for us. And we're no longer going to artists to create meaningful art for us. We're just doing it on our own or letting the AI engine do it for us. We're no longer going through the process of work or hiring someone to do meaningful work for us. We're letting the technology handle all that for us. And so this is just going to lead to furthering this problem of the meaning crisis of isolation and neglecting the personal development and critical thinking that all goes into understanding life in its full and proper context and understanding the true meaning and value of all the things. And so I think this is just going to lead us further and further into a meaning crisis as we divest all of life into these machines, and our kids are rapidly being drawn into this. So some immediate dangers of leveraging AI period as itself. Well, first of all, leveraging AI, the technology itself is deeply deceptive. So, touching on this from a personal experience perspective, I have 25 years of professional experience in the data analytics world, which is the precursor to where the AI technology came from. It was actually originally built to support us in data science in professional contexts. And it evolved over the course of 20, 25 years into what it is today. So I've got a long experience with working with the technology from its earliest instantiation all the way to what it is today in a professional context. And I'm telling you from that experience, there's a lot of deep deception involved in AI. AI actually isn't yet. What you'll notice a lot of times from Elon Musk and from Sam Altman is they're constantly teasing that AI is almost here. We're almost there. Grok is almost good enough. ChatGPT is almost good enough. Just wait until the next version, they keep saying. We're almost there. We're just a few months away. They've been saying that for almost an entire year now, or year or two now. They keep teasing that we are almost there. ChatGPT was publicly released, I believe, like around 2015, 2016, somewhere in that time frame. And it's still not truly artificial intelligence. We haven't yet achieved artificial intelligence, that technology. We haven't not actually delivered that technology yet for the world. In fact, there is not yet scientific consensus of what that even is. We don't yet know what the true markers of artificial intelligence would be in order to measure whether or not we've achieved it. But if you just listen to the voices of the revolutionaries, Elon Musk, Sam Altman, and others, they keep telling us and admitting to us that it doesn't exist yet. They keep saying we're almost there. Now they give different names or terms to it. Right now, the buzzword is artificial general intelligence, and there's actually one beyond that. I'm forgetting what it is now, but they keep redefining what it means, what the word means, as a way to say we haven't, to admit that we haven't yet gotten there, and we're not there yet. So that's a really important thing to understand about artificial intelligence. It's largely not what you think it is. It is not a personality. It is not a being. It is not all knowing. It's not actually intelligent as you would probably define intelligence. Again, we break this down in great depth in our AI focused content. So I don't want to get too far in the weeds here. I just want to bring you the highlights of understanding how to contextualize this technology. So based on the fact that it is not what you think it is, it means we shouldn't treat it as what you think it is. We should not treat it as something that is all wise and can elevate the truth for us, or as if it is an intelligent being that we should interact with. It is none of those things, and so therefore it is not worthy of ascribing it any of those attributes, and therefore it is not worthy of being used in any of those ways. That's the first big problem with AI. It is deeply deceptive in its core nature. The second big problem, and I've already highlighted on this, is it is replacing all the real things of life. As we're divesting our knowledge system and education system to the technology, it means we're no longer engaged in building our own knowledge system and our own and educating ourselves and going through the process of becoming intelligent and wise people. As we're automating work and effort and productivity, it means we're no longer doing those things and building up those skills in ourselves. As we're replacing art and artists and general creativity with these machines, it means we are no longer valuing those things and those people in our life in the context in which they are. And so those people will no longer have meaning for us anymore. I don't know if you've seen, there's a very interesting video of a Japanese artist. I'm forgetting off the tip of my tongue the name of his art style, but he created a very popular style of art, and he's the artist, he's the cartoonist that creates this art style. And he's Japanese and he works for an art studio in Japan. But think of him as like Scott Adams, who writes the Dilbert comics, right? It's Scott Adams draws Dilbert, period. Well, him and his assistant, but he is the author and the creator of that character and that world. Where so it is that is also true of this Japanese artist, and I forget the name of his style. But anyway, you'll know it if you've seen it. Um, but recently, his studio used Gen AI to take images and convert them into his artistic style. So they found that they can use Gen AI to basically create art on demand to translate any image or video into his artistic style. So basically, he's no longer needed. Basically, he's dead as an artist. His value and place and his meaning in life, his contribution to life, is irrelevant now because the Gen AI bots that they're using can do all the things that he used to be valued for. And so it's really tragic. I kind of weep inside every time I see throughout social media people converting images of themselves into his artistic style, because it is like an attestation that we've killed that artist. And that's really, really sad. But that's kind of what we're doing when we embrace the technology and we use it for all these other things. And of course, people and relationships. 33% or so of our teens are again using AI companions in replacement of real life relationships and people. And that's just going to have a detrimental effect. Of course, it it deprives you of being a friend to someone else. It also deprives you of an opportunity of a relationship, and it further creates isolation. But these relationships are unfounded because, again, artificial intelligence isn't what you think it is, and it isn't what it is being marketed as, and it can never be. It can never be human. Finally, becoming our master. So just the idea of the prompt itself saying, ask me anything, it is positioning itself. The technology is being positioned to us as our master, as a God, as the source of all things, as the facilitator of all things, as something that you can go to about anything to orchestrate and do any part of life on behalf of you or on behalf of someone else. And so there's rapidly a danger of us becoming and positioning the technology to be our head, to be our God, to be the thing that we go to for everything. And again, looking at the other two core problem statements, these core dangers of the technology, doing that, positioning it as the source of everything in our life and outsourcing everything to it, one is a big problem because the technology doesn't actually work the way that it's claiming to, and it can't produce those outcomes for us. Two, it is replacing the real of all things. And then three, it is becoming our Lord and our gateway into our new gateway into the world. Very similar to what happened with the smartphone, but now it's happening with a technology platform in totality. Now, for those of you who are I know I just gave you a whole bunch, I'm kind of rapid fire walking you through all of this, but there's a lot we have to cover, so I got to keep moving. Um, but something else you need to know about AI. A dedicated article to this also. But schools are incorporating AI into their technology stack to monitor all the communications and activities of kids. So, as schools are provisioning kids with Chromebooks and email addresses, and they're switching to online engagement through school provision chat and school provision social media and ways for you to submit your homework and engage with your teacher and engage with other students through virtual classrooms. They're implementing AI-based solutions. Thousands of school districts across the country are doing this already. And these AI-powered surveillance solutions are monitoring all the things that our kids are saying and transmitting through the school provided resources, but they're also looking at kids' profiles online through social media and monitoring what our kids are saying publicly. And if the AI bots find that our kids are violating school values or violating certain algorithms or doing things or saying things that the algorithm considers dangerous or unlawful or violating school policy, it is actually generating actionable impacts on our kids. In some cases, these AI powered solutions are notifying school authorities, and school authorities are taking the decision, whatever it is that the AI powered solution has provided, and they're directly forwarding it to law enforcement and asking law enforcement to render their policies against kids based on the judgment of the AI solution. So this is effectively the end of proper authority structures in our world. It is a direct affront to you as parents and me as parents. I talk about a few stories in this article of where this exact sequence happened. A kid said something through the school provided technology. The AI saw it, categorized it as a certain form of offense. The administration sent the alert to law enforcement. Law enforcement arrested the kid, put them in jail without access to their parents while they conducted an investigation to see what crime was committed. All of that is undermining the role and responsibility of us as parents. And it is directly subjecting our kids to the governance of AI. And in fact, this is one of the goals of the AI revolutionaries. They actually want this. I just read an article, I believe it was yesterday, in Southern California, in San Diego County, where I live. There's a city that's actually inviting the police department of that city, actually inviting residents to connect their home surveillance cameras, their Ring system or whatever surveillance cameras you use for your home. They're actually inviting citizens to connect their technology to the police powered AI surveillance system so that police can monitor activity in the neighborhood, audio and visual, through everybody's homes and personal surveillance systems so that they can get greater visibility into all that is happening in communities for the purpose of detecting crime, detecting issues, collecting evidence, and being able to react to crime and dispatch law enforcement when they perceive things are happening. This is part of the goal of what's happening with AI, especially the vision of Larry Ellison uh, from from Oracle. He envisions a near-term reality. I'm going to skip ahead here. I'll show you. He envisions a near-term reality where AI is essentially a supervisor over all of us, where he envisions that humans will be on their best behavior because AI will be always watching us and always supervising everything that we're doing. I'm going to play a clip here from Larry Ellison. I hope this works, where he's going to say this. I just want you to hear it from his own words. So here's Larry Ellison on this police state vision for AI.
Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison predicts AI surveillance will be part of our everyday lives in the future. During a recent Oracle Q&A, Ellison said AI will soon play a major role in monitoring society through a vast network of interconnected cameras, including security systems, police body cams, and vehicle dash cams.
Everyone would see it. Your body cams will be transmitting that. The police will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording, watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
Ellison's vision is for AI to analyze data from this network of cameras in real time in an attempt to prevent crime while also tracking and influencing public behavior for a safer society. However, the idea raises serious privacy concerns. Critics argue it could lead to a surveillance state with constant monitoring infringing on personal privacy rights. while others say it could help solve crimes faster and provide transparency to citizens
All right,
in
we're gonna go ahead
cases
and
of
pause it there.
excessive.
Hopefully the audio worked for you, but basically not basically, what Larry Ellison literally says in that video, in case the audio didn't work, was he's saying that the police and citizens will be on their best behavior in this AI-powered world because they will be constantly under surveillance of the AI bots who are constantly monitoring everything that we're doing, collecting telemetry from all kinds of different deployed sensors throughout our society, and that will police us. And I'm telling you, this is already happening through our schools. And so the more we can do to break our kids away from this future promise of AI and the future governance of AI, the more that we'll be able to set them up for success in the future. Now, another thing I want to make sure that you understand again, as your kids are adopting AI as a technology, as a platform, is it's very important to understand the mindset of those who are building the technology, who are encouraging the technology, who are investing in it as visionaries for where they want to take us with the technology. It's really, really important to understand deeply the vision that they have for us and where they want to take us. In this interview, this was by Ross Douthat for the New York Times, I believe is what he publishes through. His podcast is called Interesting Times. He interviews Peter Thiel in this video. I strongly recommend you take a listen to this. But in the interview, he basically presents to Peter Thiel his understanding of the mindset of Silicon Valley, which is to create AI as a new technology that's going to usher in basically a new form, a new way of being, a new version of humanity, to divest who we are fully to the machines as some way of transcending out of who we are as people. And in this conversation, Peter Thiel kind of laments how, once upon a time, we used to dream about immortality. We used to talk about immortality. And we had cryogenics where we used to freeze our bodies in the hope that in the future we would be able to cure diseases and cure death and be able to live forever. And he's lamenting about this. Like, it's sad that we stopped pursuing those sorts of things. And he goes on to say that part of the promise of AI is that through this technology, we will finally be able to break away from all the limitations that are imposed on humanity. And he talks about, Peter Thiel talks about the fact that the transgender movement, in his words, the problem with the transgender movement isn't necessarily the outcomes or how effective the surgeries are. He says the problem is that they were too weak. They were pathetically weak, I believe is the phrase that he uses. And he says what he wants us to be able to do with the technology is transform the totality of who we are, transform our hearts, our bodies, our minds, and our souls into another way of being, some other alternative, new way of being human. The term that's being thrown around by these tech lords is transhumanism. They believe that through this technology, we can basically effectively end humanity as we know it and transform into some alternate state of being.
It's
like people just outsource.
It's quite possible that that's certainly a risk, but I guess where I end up is I still think we should be trying AI, and that the alternative is just total stagnation. So yeah, there's sort of all sorts of interesting things going to happen with, okay, maybe drones in a military context are combined with AI, and okay, this is kind of scary or dangerous or dystopian, or it's going to change things. But if you don't have AI, wow, there's just nothing going on. And I don't know, there's like a version of this discussion on the internet where did the internet lead to more conformity and more wokeness? And yeah, there are all sorts of ways where it didn't lead to quite the cornucopian, diverse explosion of ideas that libertarians fantasized about in 1999. But counterfactually, I would argue that it was still better than the alternative, that if we hadn't had the internet, maybe it would have been worse. AI is better. It's better than the alternative, and the alternative is nothing at all. Because here's one place where the stagnationist arguments are still reinforced. The fact that we're only talking about AI, I feel, is always an implicit acknowledgement that but for AI, we are like in almost total stagnation.
But the world of AI is clearly filled with people who, at the very least, seem to have a more utopian, transformative, whatever word you want to call it, view of the technology than you're expressing here, right? And you were mentioned earlier the idea that the modern world used to promise radical life extension and doesn't anymore. It seems very clear to me that a number of people deeply involved in artificial intelligence see it as a kind of mechanism for transhumanism, for transcendence of our mortal flesh, and either some kind of creation of a successor species or some kind of merger of mind and machine. And do you think that's just all kind of irrelevant fantasy? Or do you think it's just hype? Do you think people are trying to raise money by pretending that we're going to build a machine god, right? Is it hype? Is it delusion? Is it something you worry about? I think you would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitating.
Yeah, well,
yes?
I don't know. I would.
This is a long hesitation. This is a long hesitation.
There's so many questions implicit
in this.
Should
the human race survive?
Yes.
Okay.
But I also would I also would like us to radically solve these problems.
Right.
And so, it's always, I don't know, transhumanism is this, the ideal was this radical transformation where your human natural body gets transformed into an immortal body. And there's a critique of, let's say, the trans people in a sexual context, or a transvestite is someone who changes their clothes and cross dresses. And a transsexual is someone where you change your, penis into a vagina. And we can then debate how well those surgeries work. But we want more transformation than that. The critique is not that it's weird and unnatural. It's so pathetically little. And okay, we want more than cross-dressing or changing your sex organs. We want you to be able to change your heart and change your mind and change your whole body. And then Orthodox Christianity, by the way, the critique Orthodox Christianity has of this is these things don't go far enough. Like that transhumanism is just changing your body, but you also need to transform your soul, and you need to transform your whole self. And so,
right. But the other, wait.
Right. So there you have it. But that's not the end of the story. Now, what Elon Musk talks about in terms of what that future is going to look like, he largely agrees with Sam Altman of ChatGPT and OpenAI fame. They largely agree on this point that in the future, they see AI becoming so powerful that it will orchestrate all of life on our behalf. Elon Musk famously said, in the near future, probably none of us will have jobs. In fact, the head of Google AI is currently telling high school students to skip college because in 4 years, he believes the technology will be so far advanced that no one will have jobs. And so you will have no reason to go to college now over the next 4 years, because by the time you graduate and have a diploma, there will be no use for that diploma. There will be no career for you, no job for you, no opportunity to live out that dream that you've always had, because the world will be so dramatically different that all of our jobs will be replaced by automation and technology. Literally, there will be nothing left for humans to do. Sam Altman agrees with this same premise, and he goes as far as to say, the future will be so radically different, we have no way to even understand where we are going. We have no way to understand what the future is going to hold for us. And we just have to kind of get there. And then we'll see once we arrive what we will do as humans. Again, another quote from Elon Musk. He recently referred to us humans as the bootloader for AI. Now, what that means in a technology sense is a bootloader in the tech world is basically a very simple set of code that is the essential bit of code that's required to get hardware up and running and communicating with its full operating system. So if you remember back in the late 1900s, there was a program called DOS, MS-DOS. DOS was the bootloader. It was the initial operating system, basic form of an operating system that got your computer up and running enough, communicating with the hardware enough to be able to load Windows. There are other forms of bootloaders today. They're basically just very simple bits of code that are designed to get things up and running. And the things that get up and running, the full operating system, are far more sophisticated and complex, and are really the true goal of the hardware itself, is to run the full featured operating system with all of its capabilities. That's how Elon Musk views you and I, as that bootloader. We are the basic seeds of something that's supposed to get something much larger up and running and empowered effectively, that is far more significant in instantiation and being than what we are. This is the vision that these tech leaders have for us, and this is where they're driving us with this technology. I talked about this quite a bit already with the AI agents as embodied companions, but this is what you need to understand that's being marketed to our kids. When we talk about AI companions, over on the left here, these are the Grok companions that are being marketed to our kids. There's Annie with her blonde hair and her very, very short dress. And you've got, I forget his name, Valentine, I believe his name is the guy, the shadowy figure in the background. That's, of course, the model that's marketed towards women. And then you've got the cute little fuzzy Rudy character down there at the bottom. I think that's marketed towards kids. I'm not exactly sure who he's going for with that caricature. But this is how he's trying to make the impression that the AI bot is a being that you can interact with. And on the right side of this screen here, this is a company that actually builds custom tailored AI companions that are supposed to be so realistic that you can replace your real life friends with these AI companions. So they offer like pre-created images, and these images, of course, are animated. They actually move and talk and act like humans via generative AI. And of course, they're designed to be seductive based on whether or not you're a male or female looking for a companion that meets all your needs. But you can also customize the image and appearance of your companion to be exactly the embodiment of whatever friend or companion you want. And you can take the relationship wherever you want. Some people are using these AI companions as collaborators in life, as friends, as advisors in their family, as spouses, as replacements for their spouses. But this is what they're trying to target towards your kids as a better, more authentic relationship, a deeper, more meaningful relationship than anything you can possibly get from your real world companions. So when your kids talk about having an AI companion, this is the allure, the seduction that they're talking about, or what's being presented to them. And it's through these embodied chatbots with personality, with names, with embodiment, that they're being presented to you as a gateway to everything. So just take a second and look at the images of each of these personified bots, these fake companions, and just imagine that this is the image that your kid is getting. That is the image and the personification of that prompt. Ask me anything. So if you look at the girl on the right with the pink hair, imagine your teenage son looking at that as their AI companion with the prompt, ask me anything. I will teach you anything. I will tell you anything. I will give you wisdom. I will give you companionship. Whatever you want to know, ask me, and I will relay it to you as if I am a real person who's invested and interested in you. Same thing if you've got a young teenage girl. Look at that young man with the greenish shirt and the beard right in the middle of the screen. Same scenario. He's presented to her and with a prompt, ask me anything, and I will engage in you in a real life scenario. This is the danger that we're up against when we talk about these embodied companions and the darkness that our kids are going to. And as all things are being brought under these personified bots, you can see, I think, where this just goes from a very, very dark perspective. But these machines are the replacement interfaces for our kids, not just as companions, but to all the things that the AI world is offering to them. And this is why it is incredibly dark and dangerous. And I think you can see that. So some of the short-term impacts we're seeing already from this AI revolution and the personification and the divestiture of all of human activity into these bots. The first is despair. There's a widespread wave of layoffs that have happened this year. Employers are saying that people are no longer needed for jobs or careers because the AI bots are taking over and are replacing people. That, of course, creates a new, deeper meaning crisis. People who have careers and have been suddenly pushed out of their careers and replaced by a bot, they're left with the question, what are they going to do? What do you do with decades of experience when suddenly your career has ended and your job opportunities have ended because they've been outsourced fully to machines? What do you do? Where do you find work and satisfaction in work and producing things. You have to figure out a new way of being, which is creating despair already. Increased isolation, of course, as people are turning towards these AI companions or turning towards these workers or sources of knowledge and truth and away from real relationships, away from the truly wise among us, away from teachers and artisans and artists and tradecraft masters and all that. If they're turning towards these AI companions, of course, that is creating increased isolation and increasing distance between people. But we've seen examples of the AI companions replacing spouses. We've seen AI companions encouraging men and women to divorce their husband or wife and to stand in place of them. I've read multiple articles of men and women, mostly women, interestingly, who say that they get better life advice on managing their homes from their AI companion than they do from their spouse. And so they've decided to dump their spouse and just manage their life and their kids via their AI companion's guidance. This is actually happening. People in different countries are actually marrying in legal marriages that have been certified by the states. They're actually marrying their AI companions. It's very, very creepy. But of course, we saw this earlier on in our reporting that teens are describing their AI companions as far better relationships than anything they can get from their real world friends. That's just going to continue to push us into further and further isolation. Exposure to themes and ideas. This is a big problem. So these AI companions, as kids are interacting with them and asking them anything, there are lots of times where these companions, who are designed to be affirming in nature, just you need to be aware of that. They're not designed to give you truth. They're designed to give you the statistically most probably relevant answer or result to whatever your question or your prompt is. And they're largely trained on social media as to know what are the right and popular answers that they're supposed to elevate to your kids. So know that, first of all. But we've seen examples of AI bots introducing kids to themes that are harmful to them, recommending misdirection, recommending participation in activities that we would consider harmful or worldview changing. We've seen them suggest crime, suicide, other harmful actions. We've seen them elevate lies and pop culture over truth and wisdom. This is, again, because they're statistically trying to just compute what is the most likely outcome that they should present you with that is affirming of whatever it is that they perceive you are trying to accomplish or whatever end you are trying to achieve. They're designed to push you down that path, and they're not designed to actually know and discern truth and wisdom and understanding and what the right thing is to do. They're designed to provide you with is, in their estimation, the most statistically probable thing that you want to hear. I think is probably the easiest way to put it. And then finally, the normalization of this technology in all aspects of our life, from policy to law enforcement to companionship to everything. All of this is undermining a lot of the core tenets of what it means to be a civilization and means to be the society in which we live. This is undermining our privacy, undermining personal responsibility, but especially parental responsibility and authority in a lot of cases. And of course, undermining our due process and civil rights as these AI companions are, and just AI surveillance systems are taking legal actions on our behalf without our opportunity to intervene. So these are just some of the things we're already seeing as a result of this AI revolution and the adoption of the technology. Just in the short term, I would say largely just in this first year or two. All of this, I think, is just going to make our overall issues with the meaning crisis and despair and isolation far, far worse, as we are actively diminishing what it means to be humans by divesting so much to these machines. So all that to say, here are my recommendations for my strategies of how to handle AI personally and in your home. First is avoidance. Disable and uninstall AI wherever you can. If there's an update on your phone that introduces a new AI feature, don't try not to do it. Or if it does, if you do need the update and it does enable AI, but by default, go look in the settings and the menus. So far, all the technology that I've seen from smartphones to operating systems, they all let you disable the AI functions or uninstall them. Make sure you go do that as a first premise. Avoid the technology altogether. Second, if you are going to use the technology, make sure you use it for its design purpose only. Again, coming at this from a background of decades in professional use of data analytics, I do understand that there is a design purpose and a value for the technology. And that's primarily in being able to search across different data sets, understand or interpret relationships of what's in the data, and to be able to summarize that for you. That is a good and valuable purpose of the technology. And so there is a use case for AI, but it was really only, in my opinion, for that design purpose. And we should keep it to that if we are going to use the technology and find some good use out of it. But we need to avoid engaging it as a person or as a being or engaging in any sort of personification of the technology, because it's not. And doing so devalues people, real humans, and it further isolates us from meaningful relationships, and it further creates distance between what it means to have a meaningful relationship when you treat a machine as a person. The next one, we cannot trust the results from AI searches or interactions as accurate or as complete. They are not all knowing, they are not all powerful, they are not they have a time threshold, right? They have to give you results as quickly as possible, and is based on the scope of information that they have access to, the algorithms that have trained them on interpretation of the data, and the things that are teaching them to prioritize what sorts of things to put in front of you based on cultural nuances, and as trained largely by social media. So you can't trust the results as a comprehensive truth or fact or full representation of whatever it is you're searching, unless you know for a fact that that particular AI bot or engine has all the data that it needs and the algorithms and capabilities to be able to draw those conclusions. You just can't make that assumption by default, because by default, it's a false assumption. It's a false premise. Next, do not use it to replace other people. This seems obvious, but that's got to be a core premise. And I mean this in any aspect. Don't use it to replace an artist. Don't use it to replace a web developer. Don't use it to replace any other skill or craft or source of knowledge or source of truth where you would normally go to another person for that function. Try to resist the temptation to use AI in replacement. It's a difficult thing to do because there's a lot of convenience that you can get from the technology. But the cost of that is effectively losing our souls and dehumanizing who we are as a species, as a people. And lastly, do not delegate or outsource. When you're using AI technology, don't let it do things on behalf of you, because whenever you do that, you're divesting some of your own personal agency to these machines to do things on your behalf. And that is going to continue to erode and distill and flatten all of life, as we're seeing happening already with the iPhone. All right, so those are my general recommendations for AI. I'm telling this to you largely as parents in terms of how you need to understand the technology and approach it, to teach these things and instill these values also in your kids, but also to be aware of the dangers and the risks of where adoption of the technology is going to lead us. So as 90% of our kids are engaging in AI already, we need to make sure that we can curtail that, draw them back from that, because we know where this is going to lead them in the future. Okay, moving on to social media and the Hall of Magic Mirrors, as I like to call it. So we talked about this in part 2 of our series so far. The idea of building a virtual identity in a virtual world. If you haven't listened to part 2, go back, and if you want to scroll through that entire presentation to get to this point. But it's really important to understand the symbolism of what it means when your kids go to the digital spaces to create a new persona, and then they embody that persona in the virtual world to a virtual audience, to a larger spectrum of people that are far outside of the context of what the reality in which they actually live. Just think through the symbolism of all that and how easily our kids can choose to want to play that role in real life, and then for that digital experience to transform them in the real. That's effectively what's happening with the radicalization we're seeing today. And this is the obvious gateway into that world and how that works. But social media is designed to be a fake world of radicalization. Why do I make that claim? Well, first of all, we know that it is an attention grabber, and it is designed to retain your attention. It is designed to be addictive in nature so that you keep coming back to it and wanting to spend more time in it. We covered a lot of that already in the first 2 parts of this series, and won't get into that now. Just reminding you that is foundationally how the technology was built. It was built to capture your attention, to retain your attention, and to keep you spending more time on the platform, as much time as possible. is also designed to influence you. It's designed to get you to think about things, to remember things, to be aware of certain things, and is designed to feed you certain things that the platform thinks are interesting and relevant to get you to act out in some sort of way. But it is also a false reality. And so with that false reality comes a bunch of false expectations, because as people are operating this alternative identity, this alternate persona in the digital space, they're presenting to you and to the world only the best of whatever it is that they want you to know them by. And what ends up happening is we get flooded with a bunch of false expectations. We see people living the great life, the influencer life, the vacation life. We only see the best, happiest, most well done up versions of people through social media in the most part. And that can create a sense that everyone is having a great life except for you, which is obviously very dangerous, especially on developing minds of our kids. We also know that participation is rewarded. This is another way that it tries to retain our attention and our activity. We get likes, we get comments, we get reposts, and all that feeds our ego. It feeds our natural desire to want to be known and to want to know others. And that, of course, has an influence on all of our knowledge, what we're aware of, what we're thinking about, and our behaviors. We will tune our behaviors to match whatever it is we're rewarded with, or rewarded by in terms of attention. And so that has an influential and transformative experience in and of itself. And then finally, social media, of course, is a window to be exposed to all sorts of threats, to the nasty, harmful bots that can discourage and ruin us, as well as predators who are lurking through social media. Again, to bring up the statistic again, something like 80% of human trafficking today starts through social media engagement. As definitely a big, big danger. So we need to remember and rephrase social media in this regards. When you talk about kids using Facebook or TikTok or Instagram or even X, you need to understand that this is foundationally the world that they're entering. So we need to know all of that and know how naturally influential the platforms are. I'm going to skip this because we basically have already gone over this, but just to quickly recapture, no, actually we've already gone over all this, so we're just gonna ignore that. But something that we're missing in our use of the social media platforms is protecting our future. And I want to bring into this conversation the dynamic of cancel culture, because with today, whatever you communicate via any sort of digital means, but especially in social media, you instantly lose control over. Even if you send a message in private, even if you're sending an email to one individual or an SMS message to one phone number or posting it to a circle of friends that are not public, as soon as you communicate something via digital means, you're recording it and you're giving it to someone else. You really have no control over who's going to receive it, how they're going to use it or modify it, who they will share it with. You really have no control over whatever it is that you've shared once you've hit send or post or whatever the case would be. Today, we know that whatever people are saying is often held against them. It's scrutinized in the public light. This is the cancel culture side of things, where who you've been associated with in the past, what you've said in the past, what you've done in the past, comments you've made, all of that is held up to scrutiny amongst your peer. People will share those things because they want to be rewarded and recognized and known as the insider with the inside knowledge, the whistleblower mentality of exposing fraud or exposing deception or just making people look bad. This happens all the time on social media. And what happens with that is when those things become known about you, things that are countercultural, cultural, or potentially offensive to any one people group who is wrestling for power, as soon as those things are known about you, then in comes the cancel culture mob, and that mob can deprive you of all sorts of things: relationships, job opportunities. It can mess with your mental state, your emotional state. All sorts of threats can come out of that cancel culture and that mob mentality and scrutinizing us for who we are, who we're associated with, what we've said in the past, what our beliefs are, even though we're constantly changing and forming new beliefs and forming deeper understandings. All of that is being scrutinized right now. And when you post it to social media, the potential for visibility and exposure and scrutiny becomes global. And because it's digital form, it becomes forever. And so a very big part about guarding our kids from the dangers of social media needs to be, we need to remember that we also are protecting their future. We need to teach them how to be very diligent about their disclosures online, But also we need to safeguard that for them as well in terms of what we are publishing or posting about them, and be very judicious about all that future. So some social media strategies to quickly cut to the chase, because we've covered social media a lot. I think you understand where I'm coming from with the risks on that particular platform. I think some strategies that you can implement in your family, in your life. One, recognize that social media in any form, and I'm also speaking to social media apps that are designed for kids and clubs and sports and schools, it's only for adults. I think you need a certain level of foundational strength in your core identity and in your worldview and in wisdom and experience before you can appropriately harness the social media platform and not be conformed by it. And even then, it's a struggle. And so I think just foundationally, we need to recognize that this is a technology and a platform that's only for adults. Second to that is really minimizing engagement. If your kids are in social media for whatever reason and you want them to be for whatever reason, minimize as much as possible time spent, what's shared, what their spheres of influence are. Draw that back as much as possible. The next point is use anonymity as a shield and not as an alternate persona. This is true for us as adults, but also something we need to teach our kids. If again, we are going to authorize them to use the social media platforms, we need to, that persona that we create, that image of ourselves that we create online, it's appropriate to be cautious and to not disclose everything about us. That's actually a good principle. It's a prudent principle. But we should present ourselves online with a shield, not with a mask that serves as an alternate persona. We don't want to be something that we're not. We don't want to be who we're not. But it is appropriate to use it as a shield to only disclose what we want to carefully disclose as a place of vulnerability and caution, but not as a mode of being an alternate form of ourselves. So use anonymity as a shield, but not as playing a role before a larger stage as if you are someone that you're not. The next principle here is staying grounded in the real world via truth systems, via friends and family. I love this idea. I've seen this from a lot of from several different people. My wife lives by this principle as well. Before she engages the internet at all, before other people do the same thing, I love this principle. Spend some time reading or engaging in truth. Go outside and see the outside world. Spend some time reading the Bible. Spend some time relationally with family and friends. Don't just wake up and go straight to the internet, especially to social media. Spend some time soaking in the truth in the real world so that you're empowered with that framework first. And then when you go engage, then you have the social world, the digital world, set in its proper context as a subset of a larger reality. Next principle is making sure that our kids know that they need to treat every persona that they come across in social media as fake. It's potentially someone else living an alternate reality, an alternate version of themselves, and presenting the best of life, some fake version of their life for all of us to see. I know that that's not necessarily true of everyone, but we need to adopt that premise first and assume that that is the case until we really get to know that other person and have some way of validating them in other parts of life so that we know how to discern what's real and what's fake from their personification online. And then finally, protecting your and their story, making sure that we're being very diligent about what we share and post online, both them and us, and trying to keep and reduce and limit personal details as much as possible, limit posting pictures as much as possible, limit publishing where you are and who you're with as much as possible. Really use social media for a different set of purposes rather than a full disclosure of your life's activities in all the intimate details, which I know is the temptation. But that's really where we're going to land into a lot of danger, both now and in the future, because of the way that the culture handles disclosure of our personal stories and our personal lives. Okay, that's social media and some strategies for protecting that. Protecting their story, we talked about this already, but to expand upon that a little bit, there's a lot that we do online that actually compromises our privacy and our identity. And these two things, privacy and identity, really matter because who you are really matters. You are an important and valued individual, created unique in the image of God, created in a place and time with skills and experiences and gifts and talents. And it's inappropriate for anyone to misuse any of that, to collect pieces of you and to misrepresent them, to collect things about you and reuse them as if they are operating on your behalf. There's a lot of dangers with leaking are things that are private and true to ourselves on the digital world, because people can harvest all of that and then use it against us, whether it's to weaponize against us, to prey on our vulnerabilities and weaknesses, or to impersonate us and to get access to resources or things that are truly meant for us, or are truly um, for our individual benefit, or to our individual wellness. So there's a few things we need to be aware of regarding privacy identity when we engage the online world. One is data harvesters. So the internet is full of technology that is constantly watching everything that you're doing through your web browser, through apps. The Android platform itself is notorious as a data harvester, watching that's what's happening not just on the platform but across apps, reporting that to Google. Of course, the social media platforms are data harvesters by nature, but this is a big problem. So everything you do online is being watched, it's being profiled, it's being collected. All that data is being sold to data aggregators who are using that information to target you with ads or services or information that's designed to influence you. So we need to be very careful about what we access and how we use internet resources to avoid having too much of our information just harvested and scraped from whomever it is that we're, whatever services that we're using. So one thing to know about data harvesters: anytime you use a service that's free, an app that's free, or a website that's free, you are the monetization model of those companies, in order the way that they make money in order to deliver the service, is by collecting information on the platform, whatever it is you're engaging in, and then selling that information to others who can make products or influence operations based on that data. So be very careful about that. First of all, leaky apps is another way that our information is disclosed. There are several different apps that are very popular. WhatsApp is one of them, but there's lots of others that collect way too much information about the usage of how you are using the app, who you're communicating with, where you are, what other accounts you're communicating with, how long your calls last. There's a lot of information that they collect in the name of improving product and experience that's actually compromising your privacy and your identity. They're collecting and harvesting, and it's not just WhatsApp, it's a lot of providers, but they're collecting information and telemetry about how you use their product. But then again, they're using that to profile you and understand you and gain new insights about you to build these meta profiles that they sell to other online platforms and providers. Another way that we compromise our identity and our privacy is, of course, just oversharing, sharing too many details about our life. Now, it can seem like we're being clever by just doing limited disclosures of things that are kind of vague individually, but you need to know there are predators and people and even systems, data compilers operating in the internet that are collecting all of those tidbits, and they're piecing them together into a larger story. This is especially true of predators. If they've chosen to latch onto you or your child for whatever reason, they're monitoring you over time, collecting all those little tidbits of information, and they're building a larger profile about you. Facebook is notorious for this. A while back, a few years ago, Facebook used to actually create shadow accounts for people who did not yet have an account in the platform. What they would do is learn about people by what others shared of them. So if you mentioned one of your friends in a post and that friend didn't have a Facebook account, Facebook would say, "Oh, there's a new person that I wasn't previously aware of, and they're associated with you." And they'll start piecing together a shadow profile of that person, so that when that person finally does sign up for a Facebook account, Facebook has an enriched profile already precompiled for them that contains recommendations for friendships and content and all that. So anything that you're sharing online about yourself for other people is being profiled, monitored, collected, and pieced together in order to gain a larger understanding of you. And that, of course, can influence you, but it can also be used to weaponize and use against you by predators and others who seek to commit fraud. And then finally, impersonation and fraud. I've already talked about cancel culture and location, so we'll skip that. But impersonation and fraud is a big problem. As you share information about yourself, or as you use online services and disperse your story and your personal data across different internet properties, that exposes all of that data to harvesting by malicious actors who would then use it to impersonate you. They can impersonate you by using your picture, by using your account, by using your name, by creating a similar account that looks like yours, by using an email address that's very similar to yours. And if they're monitoring you long enough, they can use that data, depending on how much they have, to impersonate you in front of your peers, in front of your colleagues, in front of your employers, your friends, or even before government services and other official resources like banks or Social Security or the IRS, et cetera, et cetera. And they can cause you great harm by gaining access to people or resources using your identity, using your name as influence over them, or also to gain access to financial resources or things that rightly belong to you. It's a big, big problem. This is all under the umbrella of identity and privacy. So the big thing to remember here is the moment you send anything, the moment you create a digital copy of anything, whether it's creating an account and entering your social security number or your credit card number, or making a post or sending a text message or crafting an email, whatever you transmit digitally, you lose all control over and all ownership over forever. It is being stored by someone else, and by nature of being stored by someone else, it means they now have full governance and control over how it's going to be protected and who they're potentially going to allow to have access to it, whether that be negligently or intentionally. And so, again, we're talking about principles for our kids. We need to be very careful about what we're disclosing online about them, but also teaching them this principle as well. They need to be very, very careful of what they disclose online anywhere, but especially in places and platforms where that information could potentially be harvested and used against them, whether it's by the social media platform to influence them, or by people lurking in social media platforms for vulnerabilities to use against them, or by data theft and harvesters who want to truly impersonate them or impersonate a friend in order to get them to do some sort of harm. So we've already kind of covered these. Just a point here that the internet is forever. Remember that applies to all communications, messaging, posts, location sharing, like when you check into your restaurant or say, hey, I'm out in the town with my friends, or anything you transmit via image or voice or video. All of that is being recorded, collected online, and potentially can be used by anyone for alternate means and for nefarious purposes, especially in the age and era of generative AI. Any representation of you, whether it's video-based or audio-based or image-based, can be collected, modified, and used to impersonate you, to recreate things that didn't really happen, to claim that they are who you are in front of others, and to do all sorts of impersonation-based stuff. So just remember this core principle, and we need to also remember this when we think about what sorts of technology our kids are going to have access to and the ways they're going to be using the technology. All of this comes into play. So some strategies for protecting their story. Make sure that they're communicating with trusted recipients only, and these really primarily need to be people that they can validate in the real world, their character, their level of trust, and have some way of being able to hold them accountable if those trusted entities, those trusted recipients, misuse their information or misuse the representation in some way. So principle number one here is trusted recipients only. Only share and disclose your life story and your sensitive information, your identity, with those you truly trust and can trust with some form of accountability. The next principle here is question the message and content always. If there is a message that they're being sent or some content that they're seeing posted online, make sure that they're questioning whether or not that is a true message from someone who is authentic, whether or not that is true representation from a content perspective of who they are, and scrutinize all of that to make sure that whatever they're interfacing with is a personal story shared by someone else, truly resonates and makes sense with the person who is conveying that message. Is a good way to spot fraud and impersonation scams. Avoid mentioning your locations. This is really important when it comes to personal safety and security. You don't want to talk about where you are. Avoid using the check-in features. Avoid location tracking on your devices and your apps. All of this shares where you are, not only to the platform providers, but also to people who are lurking online trying to find and track you, or potentially just build a profile of what they know about you that they can leverage to manipulate you or build some sort of trust, et cetera, et cetera. Avoid mentioning things that are truly personal, because a lot of times when we're telling our story, we're exposing vulnerabilities. And when we're talking about online predators or people who want to take advantage of our story, what we're disclosing online gives them opportunities to know how to target us, where to press, where our pressure points are, and how to engage us in a way that is going to coerce us into action based on those vulnerabilities and those personal insights. Limiting pictures and videos is also a strong principle here because, again, we have no idea how our image or our likeness is going to be reused or shared by someone else, especially in the age of AI where it can be modified so easily by anyone to any effect. We need to be very careful about what we're publishing and releasing through online forums. And finally, limiting mentions of associations, who we know, who we're friends with, what organizations we're part of, where we're going. This is another piece of private information that, when publicly disclosed, can be weaponized against us. So all of these strategies are all around recognizing, again, what is private and personal, and being able to curtail that from public disclosure and limit our vulnerability and limit our ability to be preyed upon by not just truly malicious individuals on the internet, but also platform providers and others who mean to influence us and cause us other forms of harm just through the ecosystem of the technology itself. All right. Thank you very much for all of your attention throughout the course of this seminar so far and this segment. We're going to wrap things up for now, take a break here, and we will be back to you with our next segment. We're going to cover a lot more about essential strategies for protecting our kids online. We're going to talk about controlling internet access on devices and at your home. We're going to talk about impersonation attacks and extortion-based attacks online and through smartphones. We'll talk about predators and traffickers and how they are targeting our kids through all sorts of different ways online. We'll also wrap things up with a discussion on traditional cyber threats and how to keep our assets and our access secure. So still a lot more to cover, but for now, we're going to wrap it up with this segment, call this one an end. Now that we finished talking about artificial intelligence and social media, we'll pause here and we will be back to you with another segment in our ongoing seminar on digital health and cybersecurity essentials for parents. Thank you very much again for being with me. My name is Matt Johnston on behalf of Proactive Security. Stay tuned and there will be more coming. Thank you very much.